My wife Amber and I went on what seemed to be a classic mountain lake hike up to Crestone Lake, which sits at a stunning 11,800 feet and promises amazing views. We camped in North Crestone Creek Campground, which is near the town of Crestone in Colorado. The campground is only an hour from the sand dunes, so we planned to hike around the sand dunes on our first day and do a hike in the mountains on the second day. The campground was right by a stream that had a decent amount of water in it, and I messed around getting shots of the water. I did a lot of experimenting, just trying to get different shots of the creek, trying to make the water milky and smooth, and I particularly liked these shots. We really enjoyed our time hiking around the sand dunes. Some of the dunes were super steep, but we ended up hiking far enough to leave the crowds behind, and I got some amazing pictures that didn't have anyone in them. After exploring the sand dunes, we hit up the Sand Dunes Recreation Hot Springs, which is down in the valley, in the San Luis Valley, and then relaxed back at our campsite. We started looking at hikes around the Crestone area, and it appeared that nearly every hike would be about the same distance in elevation gain, which was about 10 to 12 miles and about 3,000 feet of climbing. So a big hike. We ultimately settled on North Crestone Lake because it was right at the end of our campground. The next morning we got up early and hit the trail for Crestone Lake. Coloradans may recognize the name Crestone from the 14ers Crestone Peak and Crestone Needle, neither of which are visible from this hike. The trail followed the river for some time before climbing up the side of the mountain, and eventually breaking out of the trees in a few spots, just enough to allow me to get a few pictures of the area. It wasn't long before we came upon the first stream crossing, which was just a few logs that had been haphazardly thrown over the stream. After crossing, we saw the first backpackers of the trip in a meadow nearby. A mile or so later, the trail came to another stream crossing, but this one was significantly longer and deeper, and the logs were not super stable. However, someone had left a couple of long sticks at the entrance, and we gratefully used those to help us get across. As we continued on, we gained more perspective of the valley we were in and the surrounding mountains. To our right were definite peaks, though they were unnamed, and to our left was a mountain ridge with some aspens laced throughout. We were really hopeful for the lake at the end, because everything was so green and warm where we were in the valley. As we continued, we hiked through a lovely aspen grove, and then started to get glimpses of another mountain that had been hidden behind the mountains that were in front of it. This mountain was Mount Adams, which stands at a staggering 13,937 feet. As we broke out of the trees and the valley opened up, we caught glimpses of a beautiful waterfall ahead of us, which we thought would be dropping into the lake. The closer we got, however, the more we realized that the lake was not in sight, and it was in fact just a cool waterfall that we could see. I looked along one of the hillsides and saw, unfortunately, what I thought was the trail. And sure enough, it was the trail, and it climbed the steepest it had up to that point. It climbed about 600 feet in only half a mile. At close to 11,800 feet, we crested the top, and we were really feeling the lack of oxygen, forcing us to move slower and to take more breaks than we normally do. We really had to push up that last climb, and as we slowly crested the top, anxiously awaiting the lush, high mountain lake, we simultaneously said, "Oh, that's not what we were expecting." Sure enough, before us was a beautiful mountain lake, which to our surprise was still frozen. The whole mountainside was completely devoid of flowers as well. It was basically just white and gray, still with lots of snow. We really enjoyed this hike. It was very beautiful, and we only saw a few other people out there. Unfortunately for us, we happened to do this hike about a month too early. Enjoy your hikes out there, everyone, and be safe. As always, thank you for watching. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and I'll catch you in the next one.